Hi everybody, it's Christine, and today I'm bringing you my episode of Seeing the Signs from Spirit. One of my favorite things. Reason 1. We look for signs. When our loved ones cross over, when we are confronted with the death of a loved one, we are overcome with so much emotion. Our friends offer kind and loving words that really help us to feel better, but there is nothing more comforting than a sign from our loved one. Reason 2. When we need help and guidance. Asking the divine or our loved ones who have passed is the best way to receive it. They are always ready and willing to help us. The problem sometimes is that we don't know how to get the information or the guidance from them. So I am going to help you today to learn what to look for. I have been working with the divine for the past 15 years, but I have always believed in spirit for most of my life. And it is an amazing feeling. I love the help and the guidance I receive from all of them, angels, ascended masters, guides, and my loved ones. In my darkest times, I had to push myself to stay open to connect with all of them, as they truly were the ones who got me through it all. And I will give you information on how you too can connect with the divine and your loved ones and get your signs. Dreaming. Dream time is one of the most common ways that spirit connects with us, makes contact. When you're dreaming, you're naturally more open to the spiritual realms, so it's easier for your loved ones to reach you and connect with you and interact. Pay attention to the additional symbols and themes and emotions present within your dreams to get an idea of the message that your loved one is trying to give you. Pay attention to what sticks out the most. Don't take things literally. And if you have a vivid dream about a loved one who has passed, it was definitely a visit. And to elaborate on that, I myself have had visits from my father. And in the dreams, he was so clear and so vivid, and he actually hugged me, and I felt the hug. And I knew once I woke up that we had a visit together. That was just not a plain old dream. And paying attention to what sticks out in your dreams. Notice how sometimes you dream and you're like, oh, I had this dream and this happened and that happened. I really can't remember a lot, but I do remember this one point where this was going on. That is what you want to pay attention to, that one thing you do remember. Don't force yourself to try to remember the whole dream. The whole dream was not important. Just that one piece was. And that piece could be a color, a person, a situation, something to that effect. And don't take things literally. A lot of people say, oh, I dreamt I'm going to have a baby. I don't want any kids. Or I dreamt that, so-and-so died. I don't want them to die. Does that mean they're going to die? No, it doesn't. A death means an end to something. A birth means a beginning. If you see a plane crash in your dreams, it doesn't mean a plane is going to crash. But what is crashing down around you in your own life? So that's how you kind of take the dreams and pull them apart a little bit to find out what the message is and what spirit is trying to tell you. Colors. Colors are another way that spirit connects with us. All colors have meaning. So when you see a specific color that keeps popping up all the time, look it up online. What is the spiritual meaning of pink, red, blue, purple, whatever it is? Colors are also connected to your chakras. And your chakras, of course, are your 7 main energy centers. So if you start seeing like maybe a lot of red, why do you keep seeing red everywhere? Red stop sign, red blouse, red pocketbook, red bandana, whatever it may be. It could be Spirit's way of saying maybe you should check in with your root chakra. Are you grounded? Are you fearful these days? You have a lot of doubts, worries, things like that. Are you, grounded to where you need to feel your feet on the ground? You know, put your feet on the ground and say, I'm grounded. Have you been feeling very floaty lately? Maybe that is what you need to be grounded. Notice what colors you tend to wear. When you specifically stick to the same color pattern all the time, it could be because that's where you need the added attention within your energy system. It all connects with the chakras and with your aura. And then, of course, color could be very significant to your loved one. You know, if you had a loved one who passed away, like my mother, her favorite color was blue. So I may be seeing things around me that are blue, and right away I think, oh, my mom loved the color blue. That could be her way of saying, I'm here with you. Let me show you this so you know it's me. Symbols. Have you been seeing your grandmother's favorite flower everywhere? Maybe a number or a symbol which reminds you of her or another loved one. Well, this very may well be them alerting you to their presence. Animals, birds, or butterflies acting strangely or appearing at significant times can also be signs from spirit. Sometimes there are symbols in our life that will stick out that only you and your loved one on the other side understand. For example, I remember sitting outside of Sisters of Solace one day chatting with a friend, and it was a beautiful day. And as we're sitting outside, this one beautiful monarch butterfly just kept flying in and out of my legs. And I was like, that seems awfully strange for a butterfly to be doing. Usually they don't come that close to people. And then suddenly I had the thought, I bet that butterfly is my mother. So I says, okay, Mom, if that's you, and I say hello, will you leave me alone so I can talk with my friend? So I turned, I looked at the butterfly, and I said, hi, Mom, I'm glad you're here. And it hovered right around the height of where my face was, and then it flew away. So I knew in that moment that was my mother. So pay attention to those little symbols that are around. Coins, pennies from heaven. Always check the date when you find coins. It may be connected to a loved one's death, birthday, anniversary, or a special time in their life, or even your life. These will be used by loved ones to let you know that they're with you, as they say, pennies from heaven. And then also add up the numbers on the coin as well. It's a form of numerology, looking up the meaning of the number. So, you know, you may see a penny that you pick up and it says, 2006. Well, if you add that up, it comes out to 8, and 8 is financial abundance. So maybe somebody's trying to tell you things are going to be okay. Your finances will improve. Another great example is I remember one Thanksgiving many years ago. I always used to say to my mom when the holidays were coming, don't forget to show up. It's the holidays. You got to be here with us. And at the time, my husband was getting ready and he left change on the bed, which was very unusual for him. He never did that. And when I went over, I found a dime and a penny. And I was like, well, that's strange, 11 cents. And then I remembered, oh my goodness, my sister's number is 11. She always sees 11s, whether it's 1111, 111, it's on a clock, a license plate, and so forth. And then I decided to look at the dates. And the penny was 2006, which was the year my mom passed. And the dime was 1967, the year I was born. So she managed to make a connection between herself, me, and my sister. So it was a beautiful Thanksgiving. So watch for those coins. Feathers, one of my favorites. I always ask for feathers. One, always a beautiful sign from angels, guides, or a loved one. And two, always ask for feathers when you're looking for validation. When I went through my divorce quite a few years ago, I remember when the whole thing fell apart and the ending was starting, that I ran out of the house and I drove away and I stopped somewhere and I just cried and asked, for my angels to help me. And next thing I know, as I'm in the car looking, a feather just floated straight down, and a white one, of course, floated just straight down right in front of my car. And I was so amazed and so thankful. And I knew in that moment my angels were with me and surrounding me and loving me. Another beautiful example, my father passed not long after that time. And while we were getting things ready for his funeral services, we had pictures laid out for the poster board to put at the funeral parlor. And one of my children's friends were here. And he says, "Where did that big turkey feather come from?" And I was like, "What turkey feather?" And he goes, "That real big turkey feather on the dining room table." I'm like, "There's no feathers on the dining room table." He's like, "Yes, there is. Look." And I couldn't believe it, but when I came into my dining room, there was a huge turkey feather right on top of my dad's picture. And I couldn't help but laugh knowing that right then and there my dad was with me. I actually have a vase here at home, and I have one at my office that is full of feathers, and every single feather is from spirit. Whether it was handed to me by someone else, I found it somewhere, or whatnot. Now, that turkey feather came from that vase. The problem is the vase is on top of a hutch that's over 6 feet tall that nobody can reach unless you get a step stool. So all I did was thank you, Dad. I know you're here. So watch for your feathers. Also, when you're asking for feathers, looking for validation, for example, when I decided that my marriage was over and I knew in my heart that's where it was going, and I trusted in my decision, I did, but there's always that one little percent, 1% of you that goes, "Oh, am I making the right choice?" So I asked my angels, "Please, angels, help me. If I'm making the right decision," which I believe I am, but I would like validation, "please send me a white feather today." And I went about my day and finished my work and drove home. And as I got into the house, one of my daughters comes running up to me and goes, "Mom, guess what I found for you?" Not just what did I find, but what did I find for you? When I said, what did you find? She turns and hands me a 5-inch white feather. Now, I live in little cow country here in Massachusetts, and there's no big birds with white feathers. So I just looked up and said, "Thank you, God. Thank you, angels. Thank you for my sign." So ask for validation when you need it. Numbers. Number patterns are also very commonly shown to us by spirit and the angels. And you'll see that the same numbers over and over until you finally get the message. Spirit loves to give numbers that hold a significance, such as birth dates, anniversaries, and other significant event dates. You may relate to a number sequence for a date to a particular person who had passed away. They're letting you know that they are with you. Repeating numbers such as 111, 222, 333, and so on, seen on clocks, phones, and other familiar places like license plates, for example, could also have some significance. And this is a very common way to receive messages from the angels, with each number having a significant meaning of guidance for you based on the timeless and accurate numerology. And I truly believe in that. Anytime you see repetitive numbers, look up what is the spiritual meaning of 567 or 709 or whatever number you see. As far as repetitive numbers, angels love to give those. And for myself, my angel number is 444. It's always seemed to connect with me. It's always been there and shown up when I've needed validation from the angels. And when I was going through my divorce, I remember wondering every week if I'm going to have enough money to pay for groceries and support me and the kids and in the house while we're going through this whole process. And, I did my best to always trust and believe in God and the angels, and I would still have that human part of myself that would worry and be fearful and so on. And every week when I went grocery shopping, I would go to one store and I'd buy all the groceries and I'd come out and go, "Oh my goodness, I spent so much money." you know, I hope I can make it, and so on and so forth. And then as I go to leave, there would be a car parked within 2 spaces of myself, somewhere around me, that had the number 444 on it. And I'd be like, okay, angels, I heard you. Thank you. And then I would finish my errands and go to another store, and I'd have to purchase things, you know, for the home, and I'd buy what I needed. And it may not have been much, but again, I still felt like, oh my God, I spent more money. And I would sit there and worry like, oh my God, I just spent more money. How's this going to happen? How am I going to make it? I hope I get enough money to last until next week. And then never failed, right in front of me, there was a car that would have a license plate that had 888. Now, 8s are about abundance. Triple 8s is financial abundance. So I was so happy to see that. It was like my reminder that it's going to be okay. You're going to have the money you need to buy what you need. Don't worry. And as soon as everything was said and done and the dust settled and we all went on living our own lives, I lost that fear and that worry, and I don't see the numbers anymore because I don't need them. But those are some examples of trusting in the divine to give you the messages you need. So watch for your numbers. In fact, while you're traveling, play a game with your kids. See if we can find 111, 222, 333, and so forth on license plates. And you just ask the angels to show them to you, and they will. They will. Electrical interference. Spirit can trigger the phone to ring. And of course, when you answer it, there's no one there. Or they may cause radios, TVs, and lights to turn on, turn off, or to flicker without any other explanation. Now, if your TV mysteriously turns off, that's one thing. But when you combine that with a strong feeling that your loved one is near, it's a great indication that this is a sign from Spirit. Spirit loves to mess around with electrical things. They really do. Sometimes it's about fun. Sometimes it's about just letting you know that they're there. I have a great example. A family friend lost a good friend of theirs, and he was an avid golfer and a jokester and so on and so forth. And he died way too young, but she'd be watching TV, and she's a horror buff, and she would like to watch horror movies. And as she's watching a horror movie, the TV would change to the golf channel all by itself. And she would tell him, that's enough, I'm watching a movie. And she'd flip it back, and within a minute, it's flipped right back to the golf channel. And she'd say, okay, that's enough. I want to watch my movie. It's time for you to go home. And, you know, she'd laugh it off and whatnot. But those are just some examples. I also remember when my mom had passed. She hadn't been gone too long. And everything electrical, from my cell phone to a radio to whatever else I had around me, would start making static noises. And as soon as I would say, oh, hi, Mom, I know you're here, the static would stop. So just a little note, watch your electronics. Spirit really likes to play with them. Now, subtle and psychic senses. Your psychic intuitive senses, combined with any of the signs we've talked about, is a wonderful way to experience the presence of Spirit and to validate the signs that you're experiencing. Seeing your mother's favorite number is one thing, but sensing and knowing she is with you as you do this is extra validation. So you can know that what you're experiencing is real. Smell is another especially common way for Spirit to alert us to their presence, and one I've experienced many times. Once I remember catching the scent of my grandfather's cologne. Did your loved one smoke? And you keep smelling smoke without being able to identify its source? Scent is often used by spirits as a way to remind us that they love us and that their spirit lives on. These are the top signs from Spirit which I have received, but your loved ones may reach out to contact you in another way. With present moment awareness and by paying attention to your subtle senses, You'll be able to affirm and validate whether you're experiencing is indeed a sign from spirit or a sign your deceased loved ones are around. Signs through animals. Butterflies, birds, dragonflies, ladybugs. Spirit can use their energy to be with us through the animal world for a very short amount of time. If an animal does something unusual like land in front of you or on you, stare at you through a window, peck at your window, squawk at you as if they're trying to speak to you, any of these could be a sign that your loved one is around you. So take the moment to look up the spiritual meaning, because everything is a sign, everything is a message. So if you see an animal, say driving down the road, and all of a sudden a coyote runs across your path, then look up the spiritual meaning of coyote. If you look outside and all of a sudden this turkey is flying around in your front yard, look up the meaning of turkey, and so on and so forth. But cardinals, blue jays, butterflies, dragonflies, all huge signs from your loved ones. Movement. Some spirits love to move objects to get your attention. Does the same photograph keep falling? Is the same thing always being misplaced or lost while in your possession? Good chances your loved ones are playing with you. As much as they like to play with your electronics, they also like to hide your things sometimes. But sometimes the things that they're moving is a message you need to pay attention to. I remember when I was with my first husband, I knew in my mind and in my heart things weren't good, but I had the blinders on and I didn't want to admit it, and I was, in denial. But anyway, I would come home from work and I had a wedding picture that was on top of a speaker back when we had those big tall speakers, and my wedding picture would be face down on the floor. And I'd be like, oh, no, 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 no. And I'd pick it up and I'd put it back on top of the speaker. And the next day, I would come home from work and there's the picture again, face down on the floor. And I'd be like very upset. Now I'm going, oh, no, no, no. No, this is not happening. It just fell over. The speaker's not, flush on the floor. It's, it's on carpet, so it's probably wobbly. And of course, the picture had never, ever fallen down before. But long story short, it was the beginning to the end, which was upsetting at the time, but a life's lesson at the same time. And I have moved on, so it turned out to be okay. So pay attention to those things. Buzzing in your ear. Have you ever had a high-pitched noise in one or both of your ears that has just come out of nowhere? And no, I don't mean the after effects of being a night out at a rock concert either. It is quite different than that. I will point out here that there is a medical condition called tinnitus that is described similar to this, and people tend to think that it is what is happening. But however, we're talking on a much more spiritual level. What does this mean? Spirits run at a much higher frequency than we do, hence the high-pitched noise in our ears. You can ask them to turn it down or up, and this is a sign that means that they are downloading information into your subconscious. It can also be a sign to telling you to pay attention. Now, how do you know what they're saying? Well, you can get it in several ways. Look up the clairs, as they call them: clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance. These are how you can see, feel, hear, or know what the messages are. Unfortunately, they don't send out a memo typed out neatly for us to understand. But if you keep practicing, you'll get to know what they're trying to say through meditation, through journaling, and such. Perhaps we can work on that with them in the future, get them to speak up a little more. But always pay attention. And if you can't figure out what it means, it's okay, because a lot of times when they download information, usually it's meant to be stored in your subconscious until the time is right, and then that idea or message that they conveyed to you at one point comes to the forefront, into the front of your mind, where you can now get it as an idea and then act on it. Synchronicities. Synchronicity is an experiencing two or more events that are unlikely to occur together by chance, yet are experienced by occurring together in a meaningful way. For example, maybe you've heard the same name pop up several times in one day. Perhaps you have been recommended to read the same book by several different people. There's so many things that can contribute to synchronicities, and I'm sure you've already experienced it several times before. These are signs that you're on to something, so pay attention. Synchronicities can be a sign of confirmation, of thoughts, of messages, a definite sign Spirit is watching over you. And just a quick example of synchronicities. I remember back in like 2011, I had previously, before that, had been told I was supposed to write a book. It was a message from my mother, and didn't understand it because I didn't think I was a book writing kind of person. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody would come up to me and go, "You should write a book." And I just thought it was odd. I'm like, okay. And then I was on the computer, and you know how you get the ads on the computer. All the ads were learn how to write, become an author, publish your own book. And then I'd have more people asking me, "Are you writing a book? You should write a book." Those are all the different synchronicities that happened that, believe it or not, it led me to go write a book. And in 2012, I did. I published my first book. Fragrances. We can often tell our past loved ones are around us by smell, like perfume, cigar, cigarette smoke, flowers, cooking, or any other familiar smells associated with them. There's no logical explanation as to why the smell is there, especially sometimes because others can't smell it when you can, but it seemingly comes from nowhere. For example, if you smell cigar smoke and no one is smoking near you, but you can associate it with, or it makes you think of your grandfather, let's say, who passed away, that used to smoke cigars, then chances are it is him letting you know that he's around. Think of the familiar smells you associate your loved ones with. If it is not logical to smell cigar smoke when no one smokes in your house and you're quietly sitting there watching television, then it's definitely a sign. I have a funny story. Is one day I was making chow mein, and we were eating the chow mein, and I got the whiff up my nose of vinegar, and I don't like vinegar, so it was horrifying. I was like, wow, what is that smell? And I remember my husband at the time going, "What are you talking about?" And I says, "Vinegar, don't you smell it?" And he was like, "No, I don't smell anything." I'm like, oh my God, it was so strong I had to pinch my nose. Like, what is this? And I just had this thought pop into my head, and I said, "Hey, when your mom was alive, did she make chow mein?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Did she put vinegar in it?" And he went, "Yes." And I went, "Oh my God, your mother's here." He looked at me and went, "Oh my God, today's her birthday." So they let you know they're around. Touch. Spirit can touch us to let us know that they're with us. For example, have you ever felt like someone was touching your hair and there was no one with you? Have you ever been sad and had that feeling of comfort, like someone was hugging you? Have you ever had a dream where your loved one was hugging you and you could feel it? If so, lucky you. It takes a lot of energy for Spirit to do that. Spirit will not touch you in a way that will scare you or make you jump or anything like that. It'll just be that very light touch, like, yes, somebody's touching my hair, or geez, did somebody touch my hair? You know, nothing crazy, just very subtle, but it's their way. And I remember times I'll ask my mom, "Touch the top of my head, please. I want to feel you with me." And all of a sudden the whole top of my head will just tingle. So try that. Simple, it's easy, and they will do it for you. Now, if you don't feel it, sometimes it's nervousness. Sometimes it's, you know, a little bit of that fear setting in, like, oh my God, what's it going to feel like? But I always tell everybody, remember, if you were not afraid of your loved one when they were alive, you have no reason to be afraid of them when they're passed. Music. Songs are a great way for Spirit to trigger memories of you. And Spirit loves to play songs to deliver messages to you. Sometimes you'll wake up with a random song in your head and you have no idea why you're thinking of it. Or perhaps you just turn on the radio and you hear a song that instantly reminds you of a loved one. Aside from letting you know that they're around, pay attention, close attention to the lyrics. There can be a message in there for you. Sometimes Spirit will pick a particular song that has a verse in it that when you hear it, you say, oh my God, that sounds like my life right now. So be open, be aware. Thoughts. Spirit messages can come to us by the way of thoughts. So pay attention to any thoughts that just pop into your head. For example, you see a bird that is very uncommon in your area and you immediately remember how much your grandmother loved this particular bird. Then know it's her. Maybe she sent you this to remind you of her and to let you know that she's thinking of you and that she is with you. You might be thinking of your next vacation and suddenly you get an inspiration to go to a certain place. Perhaps it's somewhere your loved one has been before and they're making a suggestion for you. Your loved ones are always just a thought away. I am very grateful for you. I hope that this helps you to understand how the divine and your loved ones connect with you. It is also important here to mention, do not force yourself to see signs. When you force it, you're actually going to miss the signs. It is best just breathe, trust, believe, and allow the signs and messages to come. If you find yourself having trouble, ask Spirit to make the signs or messages loud, and as I like to say, in my face, please. Keep practicing. You'll get better every day. Love and blessings. Christine.